We all know MrBeast is like the biggest YouTuber on the platform, so let's compare him to a YouTube group, a YouTube community, and then the world. No, this isn't your English class where we compare text to speech, text to world, text to self, and whatever. We're comparing MrBeast, his empire, to a bunch of other things. Starting off with a YouTube group. I couldn't think of one, so I chose the Sidemen. Sidemen, they're pretty big. If you don't know who the Sidemen are, I don't know how you don't know who the Sidemen are. 7 British YouTubers, and they all just make content together. Pretty neat. Now, can 7 YouTubers beat MrBeast? MrBeast is pretty big. I would assume that MrBeast can easily beat these guys, right? But you gotta remember, not only do they got their little Sidemen channel, they also each individually have their own channels, which is pretty big. So the way we're gonna compare MrBeast to these 3 separate examples is we're gonna take a look at the 3 questions you always ask your favorite YouTuber. How many subs you have, how many views you gain per month, and how much money you make. Starting off with the sub count, Sidemen have a pretty big sub count. I mean, with the channels of the 7 creators, plus their second channels, maybe a shorts channel, they got a lot of channels. And this total adds up to 145 million subscribers. That's a lot. But can MrBeast beat them? Yeah, he can. Because just with his main channel alone, I assume by the time this video goes up, he already has that number. Combined with all his channels, which you might be thinking, there's only 3 of them. Well, MrBeast has different language channels, which have become obsolete for a reason that I'll discuss later, but he still has them, they count, big deal. The point is that MrBeast, combined with all his channels, all his language channels, all his second channels, has 260 million subscribers. That's a little too many. If you ask me, that's too many subscribers for one man to have. Now let's go on to the views gained, because of course, with views, they're directly correlated to subs, right? That's wrong. If you think that, I don't know how you're gonna work on YouTube. Maybe you're not gonna work on YouTube. The point is, subs have nothing to do with views. I mean, they have a little bit to do with views, just not to the same extent an average person who's watching a video thinks. Well, you see the Sidemen, they do pretty well. They got 465 million views per month. That's a lot, you know? Imagine getting 465 million views per month on 7/8 different channels. I'd say that's a lot, right? Yeah, MrBeast gets that in like half a week, I think. Per month, MrBeast on all his channels gets 2.29 billion views. Yes, we've entered billion already. 2.29 billion views. That is too much because, you know, the 260 million subscribers, like I'm subscribed to like 5 or 6 of his channels, but that is 2.29 billion views. Almost not really 2 billion people, but at least half a billion people, which is insane watching his content every month. That has to be the most insane statistic I've seen so far. But now let's move on to the money. Now the money is going to have a range because I'm not going to just go up to the Sidemen and ask them how much money they make. I have to take a guess. So the Sidemen earn anywhere between $147,000 per month to 2.3 million, which is extremely respectable. That's a lot of money. For 7 dudes to share per month, they're living life. They are living life. But of course, MrBeast shatters them with, at the very minimum, making about $726,000, and at the very maximum, making 11.6 million. Now this number isn't too big for me because no, I respect money, but he spends all this money on all the other projects he does per month, so I'm not really that surprised. And for all the people thinking he earns 11.6 million, that is if YouTube really likes him, which with the way Twitter treats him, I don't know. So in the first category of MrBeast versus a YouTube group, he's beaten them 3-0. MrBeast won across all the subs, all the views gained, and the money made. 3-0 victory to MrBeast. Now let's move on to a YouTube community. I couldn't find a suitable one, so I went for the DreamSMP. They're dead. Big deal. It was funny because a lot of kids could relate to them. Now the total combined subs of all the DreamSMP is actually very, very close. And I want to give some honorable mentions in the DreamSMP because they consist of 35 people. So some of the people deserve some honorable mentions. Dream, getting the biggest ones, he contributes a whopping 40 million subscribers to this. George Found contributes 15.5 million subscribers. Tommy Innit contributes 21.1 million subscribers. Quackity contributes 12.7 million subscribers. Technoblade contributes 17 million subscribers, and Laserbeam contributes 24.5 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers, but does that beat out MrBeast? Well, the number that the DreamSMP has currently, with all the 35 people with all their YouTube channels, is 214 million subscribers, almost 215. But if you remember MrBeast's number, he shatters them. 260 million subs compared to 214.9. It's nothing. You guys got beat hard. Now this is where everything just kind of falls off for the DreamSMP. Most of them are really small creators that Dream kind of picked off the streets. No offense, in the nicest way possible. They don't really do YouTube anymore. They mainly do Twitch. So the DreamSMP, they get some decent views, you know. I mean, Dream contributes 24 million, which if this was about a year and a half ago, I almost feel like they'd be able to challenge MrBeast. TommyNet actually contributes a pretty big number at 25.6 million. Technoblade still somehow gets 20 million views per month. Laserbeam, he gets the most, 41.35 million views. Like, what is this man doing? But of course, the DreamSMP, alas, could only make up 181 million views per month, with all 35 plus second channels. MrBeast just destroys them. 2.29 billion views. They're not even close. The final one with the money made, of course, as you know, views and money are somewhat relatively correlated. So if they can beat them in the views, they surely can't beat them in the money. But some honorable mentions, Dream still makes about $7,000 to $123,000 per month. That's kind of big. Tommy surprisingly makes $8,000 to $129,000 per month. Quackity makes anywhere between $3,000 and $50,000 per month. Techno from Beyond the Grave still makes about $7,000 to $104,000 per month, and Laserbeam, which I'm still just gonna continue saying how, makes anywhere between $13,000 to $210,000 per month. Once again, MrBeast has just destroyed an obsolete Minecraft community on the internet, 3-0. But now the world comes in, and the world is a pretty big place the last time I checked it out, so we'll see if Jimmy can compete. So now we're gonna look at two things this time, not three, because, you know, the world doesn't necessarily have a sub count. Technically 8 billion people, but Jimmy can't technically beat that. They don't also have views gained. That doesn't make sense. And if I did the money made across the world, it's physically impossible for Jimmy to beat that. So we're gonna look at population and GDP. Now I know I'm gonna get this a bunch of the comments. Yes, I'm counting the 260 million as population. I know, even I said it, I'm subscribed to like 4 or 5 of his channels. That counts me as 5 people instead of 1. We're having fun over here. Regardless, we're gonna look at the population. MrBeast, he's got 260 million people, for an example. Well, this actually makes him a pretty big country. He becomes the 5th most populous country in the world. He's currently just beaten Pakistan at their own game of just having infinite amounts of children, but he's just barely behind Indonesia, almost getting to that 4th place spot. Kinda big. It just goes to show how big MrBeast as an empire is. But now GDP. GDP is interesting. Very, very interesting. Because GDP not only is calculated in years, but the total income made. And if you don't know what GDP is, it's gross domestic product. So we had to take a lot of money, not only the views of how much money Jimmy makes, but also from previous videos, I've talked about how much money he potentially makes from Feastables, MrBeast Burger, any other sponsorships. And so I've come up to this pretty big number, which even I don't want to believe, because I don't know how you run your channel on a loss with this amount of money. He earns, not him specifically, the MrBeast Corporation earns anywhere between $53.76 million per year to $183 million per year. That's a lot. I don't think I'll ever see that much money in my entire life. That's a lot. But of course, this is nothing. Considering the world is a big place, if he was earning only about $53 million, which I said only, he would be ranked as the 217th nation in the world on the GDP scale according to Wikipedia. However, if he was earning at most $183.6 million, he'd be beating out Kiribati, but losing to Palau significantly. So in this one, I could at most give Jimmy half a point for being the 4th most populous nation, but he's nowhere near the top 100 even. He's 213th at the very, very highest. But just take that into consideration for a second. MrBeast, because yes, I know I'm referring to Jimmy himself, but MrBeast Corporation, Jimmy, as a person, is able to beat out the entire country of Kiribati in terms of money earned per year. If that's not crazy to you, I don't know what is. A person is able to beat A country, I know it already exists, Elon Musk and all these other rich billionaires. A 23-year-old who wasn't even at the age of consent like 5 years ago can beat out a few countries over here. I rest my case. Jimmy is like the best YouTuber on the platform. Go support him, go subscribe to him, and subscribe to me too, because yeah, it's worth it. Trust.